Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Tom Kelly. This is Clean Cut Audio, and for this week's 2-Minute Tuesday, I've got kind of a beginner one for you. We're going to be talking about de-essing and how you can use it to make your podcast sound better. All right, let's do it. Tools in audio tend to be named quite literally, so the name De-Esser is doing exactly that. It is removing those hard S's that happen in sibilant words, and sibilant just means something with a lot of S's. For example, the word sibilance, lots of S's there. Sometimes those frequencies can tend to pop through a mix and kind of be grating on your ears, and there is a tool called De-Esser that we're going to be digging into today. We're going to learn what it does and how to use it very quickly, very easily. Let's go into Pro Tools here. I've got a session up with some very sibilant phrases in here. We're going to listen to it with nothing on it except a little compression to make sure it's loud enough for the purposes of this video. Sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. I'm a snake, a big slithery snake. How many seeds would a seed sower sow if a seed sower could sow seeds? Sibilance. The question on everyone's mind. We can hear there's a lot of S's there, and they're quite loud. They're quite grating on the ears, especially when you're blasting it in your car trying to hear that podcast at highway speeds with those cheap tires on your car, and they're just screaming in the cabin. I know that from experience. So we have a tool called a De-Esser, and what it is essentially a dynamic EQ, and what that means is it's finding those frequencies where the really loud S lives, and when it is coming up in the sibilant words, it's just kind of trimming down that section of EQ, but only when it needs it. So something that we could look at is, let's take a look at FabFilter Pro Q3, and if we were just trying to EQ out the sibilance, it's going to EQ everything, so it's going to affect the entire signal. So let's listen, we'll look at the frequency visualizer and find where those S's are living. Sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. I'm a snake, a big slithery snake. How many seeds would a seed sower sow? All right, lots of S's there, and I saw one a little bit higher up. Let's get a bell, narrow bandwidth, and we're just going to solo that frequency and try to find really loud S's. Snake. All right, so we have a pretty big S at 7.5 kilohertz and one at about 5.6. Sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. I'm a snake, a big slithery snake. All right, so we can just EQ those frequencies out, but again, as I said, that is EQing everything even when there's not sibilance. So we're going to use a De-Esser, which is in the dynamics portion of your plugin list here. Most DAWs come with it. I bought a separate one through Waves because I thought it did a little bit better of a job. And what we have here is we've got a preset loaded up, male S. I'm trying to get rid of the male S. It gives you a frequency around 4.5 kilohertz. And we're going to listen to what this does. And we'll see right here is the threshold. We're going to set that. You're going to see when an S comes, this meter in the threshold is going to rise significantly higher than the rest of the signal. We're saying we're going to catch it right around here. And then the attenuation is how much it's trimming down the frequencies of the harsh S's when they come up. So let's just take a look at these meters and see a couple things here. Sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. I'm a snake, a big slithery snake. How many seeds would a seed sower sow if a seed sower could sow seeds? So we see that red bar coming down, that's attenuating. It is cutting by 3 to 6 decibels of around a bell around 4.5 kilohertz. It's only cutting down the frequencies on those S's. Now you can speak in a way that already cuts out some sibilance. We want to fix most things at the source, but guests on our shows, and we can't all be perfect. If we're focusing on the content, maybe we don't want to be stressing about S's as well. So this De-Esser is going to do a really good job. Let's monitor just the S's. We can see what is being cut out here. So we can hear those like really bright parts of the S's. This is with it not cutting anything.
Sibilance, sibilance, I'm a snake, a big slithery sibilance.
Let's hear before and after. This is going to be before. Sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. And after. Sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. I'm a probably cut even lower. Let's see if that does it. Sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. I'm a snake, a big slithery snake. All right, so I increased the frequency a little bit because the S's were living a little higher than where it was right here. We have just a bell bandpass on there, and let's do another before and after and really try to find where the sibilance is living here. Sibilance, sibilance, sibilance. I'm a snake, a big slithery snake, a big slithery snake. Especially on slithery, we can hear how loud it gets. Let's listen to after. Snake, a big slithery snake. How many? Okay. So that's doing a pretty good job, and that alone is going to make your mixes a little more tolerable, especially when listening at those loud levels when people are trying to hear over the environmental noise, which is often, we know that people listen to podcasts on the go. You want to have a de-esser in your signal chain, whether it is a de-esser itself or if you have FabFilter Pro Q3 or other plugins that can be dynamic EQ, that's a way to do it as well. But most DAWs have a de-esser built in. They're free, very easy to use. Really two things that we want to pay attention here. The frequency where the S-ing is happening and your threshold to set. Anything that goes over this much, we want to cut that down. It's super simple. We can try to find those S's first in EQ and then set it in your de-esser. It's a super easy thing, but especially in like music production, if we're talking about vocals in a song, oftentimes, like one of the biggest differences between a demo recording and a professional recording is how the de-essing is handled, because you want those vocals to sit perfectly flat, perfectly even in a mix. That really goes for music or podcast. We don't want these big things coming in and out. That's going to be really loud and painful for the ears, especially if we're listening to like a 60-minute podcast. We don't want anyone's ears being fatigued, because after 60 minutes of anything that's slightly wonky, they will get fatigued. You could lose listeners. It could just be draining for them to try to listen to really harsh S's, really high frequencies for that long. So grab yourself a de-esser. This is a very quick introduction, and my settings are not going to be your settings, so it's very important to experiment, really listen, really use your ears to make sure that you are as effectively as possible using these plugins. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you like what I'm putting out. New videos every week. And we now have a brand new podcast, cleancutaudio.com/podcast. It is officially launching January 30th of 2020. And I'm very excited to be doing much more listening exercises in that podcast and really covering audio stuff on a much deeper level, a much more philosophical and value-based level. I'm really excited about it. I can't believe it took me this long to get that going. So you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the podcast. And as always, you can buy Audio Nerd merchandise. You can see the 3 shirts at the bottom of your screen. You can buy them at cleancutaudio.com/shop. Let your friends know that you truly, really do love audio. And one final thing, please share this video with a friend who doesn't know how bad their sibilance is. It's really easy to not know that this tool exists. It's not often talked about, but it's a very important part of everyone's signal chain. You should have one. All of your friends should have one. Every podcaster should have one, so that we can make the listening experience as enjoyable as possible for our listeners. That's it from me. I'll see you all next week. Bye.